Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Man, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you guys?
Doing just fine. Fine. Man, we haven't talked in a long time.
Yeah, no, just kind of like those brief asides with when the Teen Wolf movie was getting written.
Yeah.
But we were all very Jeff Davis focused.
Yes. Yes, we were. We were. Well, Turner, it's wonderful to see you. These are my co-hosts, Kate and Calissa.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And let's jump in, shall we?
Sure.
Fantastic. Well, Turner, how did Teen Wolf come into your life?
Teen Wolf came into my life after I began work with the producers on a project right before season 3, the first part of season 3. I worked up with a production designer named Rusty Smith, who we were working on a Little Rascals reboot with Mike Elliott, who is a colleague of Joe Janier, who produced Teen Wolf. And then they hired Rusty for Teen Wolf, and he asked me if I wanted to come on. So it was just by happenstance and just by where I was. And then I found myself, learning about werewolves.
That seems like how it was for everyone. Just kind of all got there in different ways.
Can you explain for our audience what exactly an art department coordinator does?
Sure. It can vary per show, but the general idea is that a production designer is the head of an art department, and you have various designers doing specific things underneath their supervision, the designers, and through their vision. And the art department coordinator is there to support all of the art department's needs and their research and materials. And so it can be anything from, like with Teen Wolf, where we're researching some old ancient torture device or something. But then we have to figure out how to build that. And so then we source out, different places who make like foam versions of these things. And so it's a lot of just like, you want this. Okay. And then our art director would tell us, let's contact people to see how we can find XYZ. And not just with small things like that, also our big sets, our big church sets and everything that we built, working with what we're going to do and sort of helping those who are making the plan on how we're going to do it, execute that.
That's awesome. I remember many times when we'd be in the writer's room and Joe would be in there with us and we'd be pitching an idea to Joe because we were like, Joe's got the money. So he needs to say yes to this before we can actually do anything with it. And then a couple of times he'd be like, we'd pitch something like a mission church in Mexico. And he's like, I don't know. Let me go talk to Rusty. And then he would just walk through one door and then he's right there in the art department. And he'd come back 20 minutes later. It's like, yeah, I bet we could do that. And so it's like, all right, well then I guess interior church. So yeah.
Yeah, that would happen a lot for us where things like that would happen from the writers and from you all coming up with everything that you did was more like, wait, is this like a in the script thing or are we just checking?
Yeah.
Do you have any fun memories from the Teen Wolf set that you can share?
From the set, so not necessarily from like on set on production, because the art department is a prep production, so we're done by the time the crew shows up, right? Going back even to the old Spanish mission that you were talking about, well, we made a little village, small village out of a lot of things that was pretty exciting in terms of how it worked, because I don't remember the ranch that we shot in, but we designed this ranch to look like a little village with this nice Spanish church in it. And it was just really fun seeing it all put together because it was one of the more vast outside things we did. And so as it was all coming together, it felt like a little town, it felt really good. it was just like a satisfying. I don't know that that's a memory per se, as much as I just remember looking at it when we were getting close to done, thinking like, "Dang, this is cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a fantastic
We built
set.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it started out as it actually was the original American Sniper set. So it started out as like an Afghanistan something that we had to design away from that, obviously. So it was like really trying to picture what ours was going to look like was very difficult. And then we were like, oh, it worked.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really like I got to visit that set. I think it was when we were filming the finale, when the big battle happens out there and all that. And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun. But like, speaking of crazy stuff, I've mentioned this in multiple podcasts, but I still can't believe we never did it. But the giant forest set that we had the model for that was hanging above the giant printer. And it's like, that would have been the coolest thing ever.
And it would have turned every overnight shoot into a regular day shoot. Yep. But see, we made the mistakes that you writers didn't, which was you guys checked with Joe Moneybags while you were writing. Rusty sometimes would design some crazy cool things like a forest on stage. And then Joe would go, "No, we don't have the money for that. Why did you do this?"
But we could have saved so much money. Granted, I kind of understand, because I think by the time all that was coming about, we knew we were moving stages. So it was like, why do stuff if we're just going to have to take it down and all that? But it would have been so cool, because I always remember like seeing the behind the scenes stuff from that Ridley Scott movie Legend, where they built a massive forest for this movie. And it's like, that could have been our forest. And you're right. That means we never have to show up on set at 8 p.m. ever again.
Yeah, I would never have to show up in the morning for my 6 a.m. start, seeing the crew just walking to their cars going like, "Oh, sorry, buddy." Sorry, buddy. You know what inspired the forest, though, was the Star Trek Into the Darkness, the second one, the second Chris Pine one. The cold open is like them running through this like pink forest.
Yeah.
That's what gave Rusty the idea.
Oh, wow.
It was right at that time, and he saw the behind the scenes of that and was like, "We should do that first." It would have been really fun, but
it would have been cool. It would have been really cool, but oh well, no worries. So what was it? We talked about Rusty, but what was it like getting to work with two production designers?
It was interesting. I sort of didn't stick around that long with Tom. Mostly because I was right as he was starting up. I helped him get going for a few months, and then he asked me if I wanted to stay on permanently, but I had a lot of grad school interviews, believe it or not, for like the next month. And that's right when shooting was going to start for season 5, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so I have a little bit of a hand in sort of the more permanent set things on season 5. But then I just basically was like, "Listen, I'd love to work for you, but like, I've got these things coming down." And it essentially means the first like 3 weeks of filming, I am like woefully unavailable, because I also have to prep a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of, all the interview things with that. And so it was unfortunate, because I would have stuck around, but naturally I was like, but I get it. Sort of is what it is. And so it was sad, but seeing what he did, I was very jealous once I saw the tunnels and everything else that he put together, that I was like, dang, this would have stayed fun for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you have a favorite character on the show / did you watch the show?
I did, definitely while I was on it. And then I stuck with most of it, beyond that, just because of, at that point, you're, so many people involved, and you sort of have such a personal connection. What was the question? Favorite character? You shouldn't say Styles, because everybody says Styles.
It's easy to love him.
It's very, I mean, yeah.
And so, but I don't know. It's just, from the first scene of, the pilot, it's like he's already And Dylan O'Brien is so good and so charming, like right away, that you're just like, you're in with Styles right away. And so I know that's the easy answer, but it always kind of, it worked for me like it did for everybody else.
Yep. First shot hanging upside down, saying, let's go find a body. It's like, oh, I love you already.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Super fun.
Which Teen Wolf cast or crew member would make the best alpha?
Wait, cast or crew?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, first of all, he is an alpha, and Jeff Davis, the showrunner, without question, would run the show. But I'm trying to think of something a little more fun. I think Dave Daniels, our DP, would be. I would call him the Peaceful King, because he was a very nice man and was super fun. Obviously, very talented. But I think if I was in a pack, it would be with Dave Daniel, because we would just hang out and drink espresso.
That's a good answer.
That sounds great. I would.
It does.
I would submit an application to a pack that just sits around and drinks espresso for sure.
Yeah. It would be a time of peace.
Yeah. It'd be very good. It'd be fun. It'd be wonderful. Turner, how would you compare working on Teen Wolf to something like Goliath?
It's there's a lot of similarities. You get your sets and you hear what the writers are saying about it, and you hear what the designer wants to do, but the biggest differences are, Goliath, they were both raised reality, funny enough, even though Goliath is a bit more just in a modern day reality, but it sort of was always explained to us as a raised reality of like, the crappy apartment looks very crappy, and the luxury lawyers are even nicer offices than they would ever have, like more than that would ever exist in reality. So it was always about bumping it up here and there. And Teen Wolf had its own sort of set of rules of tone. Obviously it's always riffing on horror, and so that's the mega difference. Is we never used white. If anything that was white in Teen Wolf was actually gray, was a light gray. And it was because we were always living in this dark toned, like horror world, riffing on all the movies of old, And so ours was more, Teen Wolf was very focused on tone and very focused on really nailing those horror homages and horror bits that really shift your attention in a different way. But the work is very similar almost anywhere you go. It just depends on like what you need to focus on.
Gotcha. Nice.
What were the highlights of working in the art department in season 3B in particular?
3B. I'm trying to think back, because now it's been quite a long time.
It has.
Yeah.
I can give you a season 4 highlight that immediately comes to my brain that I was like, wait, was that season 3B? But I'm shoot.
Well, we'll take that one.
Yeah, we'll take it. I mean, they're all highlights. So
Okay. I didn't know if you were trying to hit 3B specifically, because I'm like, I remember obviously plenty of it, but what sticks out to me always that was like the coolest thing we did was probably our snowy like Japanese fight scene.
That's 3B.
Yeah, that's 3B.
That is 3B. I thought that was 4A.
Yep. Nope. That's 3B.
Oh, there you go. I did it on accident. See, I've already mixed it up. So that fight scene was cool. The snow stuff was cool. It was just like, whoa, this is just like something else. And yeah, I don't know. That was just on a whole nother level. That was very exciting and so interesting, with an interesting monster and an interesting set, interesting snow element to it all, interesting action, that it was just hitting on all of it. So then that is my 3B memory. I would have said that was 4A, or 4, by itself.
No, that was definitely 3B. We actually were just watching that a little while ago. But no, it's like that set kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because it's like the kids are running into the school and they just go through some doors, and all of a sudden they're somewhere else now, and it just kind of like slaps you in the face with how beautiful and
it's gorgeous,
just different it is.
Yeah.
And probably my favorite set.
Was the long white room 3A or 3B? Because
That's
that
3B.
was 3B.
Yeah.
That also was like, obviously that actually didn't take a ton of stuff from us. It was just like we had to hire the best foam carver in the biz, apparently, who had to chainsaw this giant piece of foam to look like the tree stump, and then lay out the tile and make that all work. But I remember going in there, thinking like how cool that was.
Yeah. For a location that we just kind of stumbled on, where it's like it's just one building away, and I don't know if
like,
Joe or whoever found it was like, oh, and we have access to this, so we'll do something with it if you want. And then you're just like, my God, this is incredible.
Yeah. That was cool.
Super well.
Yeah, just kind of almost free production value, where it's like you just find a location, turn the lights on, and put a stump in the middle of in the room, and you're like done.
Call it a day.
It really was.
Call it a day. We're fantastic. We're fantastic. Turner, what was a typical day like for you on Teen Wolf?
Like I said, we weren't on set, so for us it would be to get into the office, anywhere from 6 to 8 a.m. depending on what the scope of the work was. And then, it was kind of always being led by the designer and the art director, in terms of what the needs were. If we were getting a call about something for the set that day, then something has gone wrong, because we're supposed to be ahead of the game.
Right.
But so assuming all that's taken care of, it's looking at probably the next 2 episodes ahead. What are the big sets? What are the stages of work we're on? Some are in the design phase, other we're sourcing materials for, and others we're currently building. And how are all those going? And are all these being approved and executed in the ways possible? And just kind of keeping on that sort of, relay, what's prepping, what's building, and what information do we have of what's coming, which was frequently, sparse. And so Rusty would have to do his best job of hearing what the rumors were. Heard we're going to this and we're doing this. And so, but that was pretty much the main squeeze, and then just if we're shooting on stage, going and taking a watch, for half hour or so whenever I can find some time.
Awesome. Nice. This army happening, or this giant, all this work happening behind the scenes that are behind the scenes on the show, and it's just fantastic. It's so interesting that this kind of like these layers of sets being designed and built and sourced and all that type of stuff that you don't even think about, because everybody else is thinking about so much other stuff. And then you just like, well, we showed up, the call sheet says to be here at this time. And then you do, and there's a classroom with a tree stump in it. You're like, okay, yeah, good job. Good job, team.
I still found it very, I'm sure I was annoyed at the time, but it's always funny to think about when you guys, when they would shoot in the hallways, like right by us, if they needed like a hospital hallway set. And so it would just be like, we have to be quiet on our computers, but I'm just trying to work. But it's, and then there's a werewolf, or there's 2 werewolves with their shirts off walking by. And you're like,
No, we've spoken to other people on the show about that, and how lunch was always so much fun to go to, because it's like, there's the crew, and then there's that pretty cast, and then there's monsters just in there with you eating a delicious meal from Laurent and all that. And so it's just like going to lunch is like, ooh, who are we going to see today? Like what monsters are working today? And it's fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
So the next question is actually a fan question. Who of the cast do you think would be the best at stage acting?
Stage acting. trying to think of like who's more animated and can play to the back of the house. Ooh, that's a good question. I guess, thinking about it of just like who can play up a little bigger. I don't know. I think Posey actually, I went to Comic-Con, this last Comic-Con with watch Teen Wolf and a few other things. And I was surprised because, I'm sitting kind of far back, and I was surprised at how affectionate and how compelling Posey is on stage. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but he's such a, he knows how to rile up a crowd so well, and his energy is so radiant in person, especially. And so I think I would actually love to see him in like some sort of fun, comedy or something. He can obviously do drama, we know that, but just to see him like when he's having fun, when Posey is having fun, there's some like radiant like joy happening with him, and I think that he would do really well on stage if he hasn't already.
It's a fantastic answer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great description of what his energy is like in person. And I think that we felt that going to the premiere when he went on stage to speak to people, he gets the energy up for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's a good hype man.
Did you get to keep any souvenirs from the Teen Wolf set or pre-production?
Let me think. There was a time when I have so I still work for Joe. And so this doesn't count because I'm still technically in the Teen Wolf offices. And I'm not in my office right now, but I have one of the Dread Doctor masks in the
awesome
in my office.
That's so
but
cool.
It's not technically mine. I haven't like taken it technically because I'm still here. But that resides. The jacket's there too. The like long it's not tweed, but it looks like tweed. That like long trench coaty thing is also there.
Awesome.
Just sitting there looking cool.
That's awesome. Oh man, I am jealous.
Yeah.
Very
absolutely.
jealous.
So I guess technically you still work for Joe, but the next question was going to be, would you be interested in returning to the world of Beacon Hills?
Yeah, I would. It was especially, I don't art department coordinate anymore, but like from an art department standpoint, it was always a fun show to do because so many shows that are in like a normal reality, they go to locations, and we did too, but there was just so much extra that needed to be built. We were building more and like designing fun stuff like an abandoned church or all these things for fight scenes, or we did Derek's Loft and then we filled it with water, like all these crazy fun things. So like on an art front, like I don't know who wouldn't want to work on it because it was always like very exciting. And to Beacon Hills, both in the world. So because we helped design it, we even helped design like the map and the layout of Beacon Hills itself. We all sort of worked on it with Jeff Davis and with the writers and the designers. And so I feel so connected to it at this point that it wouldn't feel even hard to go back because it would just, we all have such a piece of ownership, which is, rare. Sometimes you just feel like you go into a show, you do a good job, it's fun, but there was some sort of personal connection of ownership that I think a lot of us felt on Teen Wolf.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It was like when I got to come back to work on the movie and then saw you every day at the offices and all that, it felt like no time at all had passed.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'd just been away for a long weekend and now we were just back at the office.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Absolutely.
You have a favorite werewolf movie?
That's a good question. I don't know that I do. I guess it would just be the Werewolf in Paris movie. Forgive me for not saying the full title.
An American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to think like what else really, because that I saw that so young and it kind of freaked me out. So it like kind of had its like it kind of had its intention. Yeah, it's probably that. I don't know. You know, it's so funny because so much of the werewolf genre is kind of is not aimed at a 35-year-old guy as much anymore. And so I don't know that it like hits me the way it did. Like I saw the Twilight series. I like the Twilight series very much. I like the first one especially. But I think I just still like, it's like you see one young and it scares you, and it like has the like horrific effect, which is super fun. Although not that this one count. Wait, oh, never mind. I'm thinking of a different movie.
All right, no worries. Well, definitely a good choice. All werewolves are great. So you recently made the plunge into directing animation for Mattel. How did that come about?
Oh, that came about because of my live action directing experience and because of my clowning, believe it or not. So I did a lot of I started a physical theater company, which was a clown theater company, where we do certain clown shows, both with the red nose and without. But that experience of directing physical performance and me with my live action experience and just my live action reel of shorts and different things I directed were a sort of combination that this production company who does these scripted and short form animated things for Mattel for a bunch of their different lines, Hot Wheels, Monster High, Enchantimals, and soon Barbie. But they needed somebody, all of their stuff is done through motion capture. And so I guess at this point they were looking for someone who could do a little bit more specific work with physical performance and with the motion capture performers, which I had never done motion capture, but I had certainly directed for over a decade, you know, physical performers. Mm-hmm. And I'd done plenty of my own works in live action. And so their idea was, instead of getting a live action director, or instead of getting an animated director, let's get someone who like knows where they want the camera and who can direct our performers better, or just more specific. And then they'll help me through a lot of the animation stuff, which I've since learned, and you know, I'm learning every day. But so it was a very interesting thing because animation is not my world. And all of a sudden, you know, every day I'm getting all these submissions of things and notes and drawovers and all these things. All of a sudden I'm directing animation.
Hey, fantastic. I love to hear it.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an interesting avenue to open up.
Yeah.
And we have a werewolf in Monster High. So like, you know.
Ooh.
There you go.
Claudine.
Full circle.
Yeah, Claudine's our wolf. I just did a Monster High music video with them and a few other characters.
Very nice. Very cool.
So our next question is also a fan question. Would you have ever wanted to direct an episode of Teen Wolf? And if so, who of the cast would you most like to direct?
Ooh, that's interesting. For sure. Yeah, for sure. Direct an episode of Teen Wolf. That's awesome. The amount of fun stuff, getting to shoot in any of those sets and doing all the fun action and shape shifting and all the, I'm a huge fantasy fan. So all the mythology, all that would have been a dream come true, really. And in terms of cast, trying to think of an interesting, because I've already said the two leads, which is cheating at this point.
Well, we had an embarrassment of riches on that show as far as cast goes. So
yeah, you know who would be? It would be the twins. Actually, I think I'd have a good time.
Okay. Yeah.
I would have a good time. Hecklin would be fun too. but I think that the twins, it's fun to see them keep popping up. I saw them pop up in the Batman and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
So I don't know. They were always super fun. I got to meet them, and chat with them. Like on their first day, they showed up to the office and the stage, and they were super nice. And I don't know. I just always I had a good time around them, and so I just think that they were just fun to be around, and we could have some fun on set and just do cool stuff.
Hey, that's perfect.
Yeah, fantastic.
If you could be any Teen Wolf creature, what would you be?
So I love Berserker mythology.
Oh,
And so it would
Ah.
probably be a Berserker. I find just their history or their history through, myth, so interesting. And to the point that I almost wish that there was, and I know there's sort of pieces of this, but I wish there was just essentially Vikings, but if we pretended like Berserkers were real and we use that as a show. And there's sort of that a couple of times, but I love Berserkers, and I love the idea in mythology. Teen Wolf, we didn't necessarily get to this, but I love Berserkers and the idea that they enrage, right? They get super mad and super strong. But there is a point, it's like the Hulk, but it's limited to the point that there is a point where they won't be able to control it anymore. They'll just give into madness until their heart stops.
oh wow.
And so there's something about Berserkers in general that I always found so freaking cool. And so it would easily be that, just because I find that fascinating.
That's awesome.
Good pick. Yeah.
Yeah, good pick. I think you're the first person to say Berserker.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Turner, are there any upcoming projects that you can tell us about?
Plenty of Mattel stuff. Barbie's on the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
At some point soon, I'm working on a fun short with my wife, who wrote a beautiful script that is I can't give too much away yet, but it's a tale of a witch who's lost her sister. And all I can describe it as is a live action Miyazaki approach.
Nice. I like all those words.
Yeah,
order.
all those words. Methodical, beautiful, sweet, but also loads of mythology and loads of just interesting and fun creatures and characters.
Awesome.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Please let us know when that's around to be put into our eyeballs, because that's right up all of our alley. So
I'll be shouting
that. Sounds
that.
Amazing.
I will be shouting that one to the heavens.
Awesome.
It's going to be a huge undertaking. It'll probably be in the next 6 months or so. We'll see. Fingers.
Yeah.
We'll see. But
Nice.
but that's the next big stab for me.
Very nice. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, Turner, thank you so much for joining us today and coming on the show and taking this wonderful stroll back down memory lane to Beacon Hills, this place that we all love.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
it's just fantastic getting to talk to you and to reminisce about something we just love and adore. So thank you, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure, man.
Yes.
Our absolute
Yes,
thank
pleasure.
very
you.
much.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
awesome. Well, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Is Joe in the office? You should go pester Joe.
I would have made him join me. No, he's out of state working on a project.
Working on something. He's
be
always
back
working
on
on
Monday.
something. That guy, he
Yep.
he doesn't know how to stop. So
I just had to schedule him for a meeting during his layover.
oh, hey, excellent.
Ooh.
Fantastic.
He's
Jeez.
that busy.
That was crazy.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Turner, for joining us, and we will be talking to you again soon, okay?
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you again.
Yeah.